All right, welcome to the show, Honest Admissions. I'm here with my fourth guest, Muffaqam Shah. He's a former classmate of mine from Markham District High School, and we studied together, we hung out together, and we parted ways, went to different universities, and we're back now again after all these years to reconnect after having accomplished a few things. So the main aim of the show is to, at least for this episode, talk about our personal and professional successes, as well as I'm sure Muffaqam has a lot to offer in terms of healthy living habits. So we'll just gear up for that. And Muffaqam, I'm so glad to have you here. It's a pleasure, and you're a welcome guest. Glad to see you again. And let's just start off by saying how you've been doing these past, I don't know, 6 months since the year started. And also, if you want to just jump into how you, got to where you are as a doctor between high school and now, because there's a bit of a missing gap in my knowledge. So let's start off with that.
All righty. Thank you for having me, man. Yeah, it's great to be here. So the first question of how I've been doing for the first, this past 6 months or 8 months now, almost, right? It's been good. Like, there's been a lot of opportunities actually. So, obviously, with the clinics being closed here, telemedicine has been booming, and so I was already in telemedicine before the whole pandemic started, and so it just kind of accelerated that whole field. And now, we have it's kind of solidified in the healthcare system where most people are going to opt for talking to the doctor over the phone or via teleconference initially, and if they need to come in, then they'll come in. Whereas before it was, you just walk in to the clinic for anything because you'd be seen. Now it's a little harder, and even if even the next 5 6 months or so, we do still open things up back to normal. People are still going to be hesitant, right, without a proper vaccine, and so they're not going to just walk into anywhere. They're going to try their other options, and so that's what telemedicine has been able to achieve, and it's good. I'm about to be part of that industry. And then as far as the gap in from
Mhm.
high school to becoming a
Yeah.
doctor, yes, I mean obviously I knew probably back in the grade 10 I wanted to be a doctor, and then all you would hear everyone say stuff like you got to make sure that you get whatever you're getting in high school, it has to be even better in university. And then of course you got to clear your MCATs, and then you'll get it in Canada. And then I was like, oh man, I was an 80-ish student, with the averages, but I wasn't killing it. So I was like, how am I going to kill it in university? It's probably going to be, and I'll probably be average. And so I was looking at other options, and then my uncles and them, they were back in India, and they recommended, hey, then there's this school here that a lot of international grads come to from the U.S. and from Canada,
Which school
and
is that,
they're
Muffaqam?
Deccan College of Medical Sciences in Hyderabad, India. And so they said, you can look into it. I looked into it, and lo and behold, a lot of people got residencies in the U.S. and Canada, and then a lot of them, like that was one of their main focuses. They only came there so that they could be able to, to come back and practice here. Looked into it, did all the stuff they wanted me to do, and I was fortunate enough to get in, and then went there right after high school, grade 12. It was kind of weird because most people, some people knew, very few people knew, but most people didn't. And so when usually in the after grade 12, when everyone in summer they meet up and then talk to the universities and where you are, and then even after university starts, people will meet up and keep in touch with their high school friends. But I didn't have any of that. I was just gone. And then even then, starting off med school first year, you don't have time, so I barely used Facebook or the internet, and so people kind of lost touch with me, and they're like, "Where are you?" They just thought people thought I was dead. And so after finally, maybe in second, third, fourth year, I started using the internet more, and like not internet, but social media more, and then reconnecting with some people here and there. But yeah, recently is where I've started reconnecting. I've kind of like just done everything and kind of come back, and I'm starting to reconnect now because I'm more active on social media with my Instagram page and whatnot. And so people are reaching out. I'm reaching out to them and reconnecting in some ways. And this is one of the ways we're reconnecting actually, which is with an old friend. And so it was an interesting experience because obviously there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of variables. But I feel like if I were to take the safe route and absolutely do what everyone else is doing, I don't think I would have been here because um, just assessing myself, I knew that if I wasn't an amazing student in high school, I'm not going to all of a sudden turn on in university where it's kind of similar. You're still in the same province and the learning style is still the same. So you can kind of expect the same results. And I was like, if I get thrust into an environment where I know I have to succeed, right, to make it, it's either you pass the exams or you don't, right? So I felt like if I was able to do that, I could really see, what I was made of and I could actually make it. And luckily enough, I was able to develop some studying strategies and learning strategies and be able to to get through that with flying colors.
With flying colors. That's great. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. It's funny because, as you say, like immediately after high school, people were kind of wondering where you went, right?
yeah.
And little did they know you had so much in store, and so much to share afterwards. Um, so I'm curious. So you must have at least had a few friends or family that had studied medicine in America, in Canada. So you get their perspective, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you compare that to the environment that you were in India, in Hyderabad at the Can, right?
Hmm.
How would you say the support system in terms of the learning and the students, is it as competitive? Because I know for universities, prestigious universities in Canada, there is like a bit of cutthroat between the students because they're
Yeah.
aiming for spots and stuff. And I've heard stories where they'll do certain things to just put others at a disadvantage. But
Hmm.
in India, how does that contrast to the way things are here in North America?
Mm. I mean, so it's the population is what is it? So almost a billion people, and
Mm.
so I think the number of people who just write the entrance exam is more than the population of Canada. So so it's very competitive. But as far as the cutthroat nature of getting in, I didn't really experience that because I did it from here. But once you're there, it's not cutthroat anymore because then everyone just wants you to succeed, right? You're in the entire
Mm.
environment, your professors, your classmates, your senior year people, all of them want you to succeed, and they're all like working towards making you a better doctor. But as far as getting in, I'm sure it's just as competitive because then there's only a few number of slots and there's way more people than
Yeah.
need to be. So some people even take a whole year. Like obviously here the MCAS people will redo it, but they'll still redo it like maybe while they're doing their masters. They do it while they're doing like other courses. But there they take an entire year off just to write just to get the highest marks in that entrance exam. Sometimes 2 years off because it's that cutthroat. So yeah, so as far as getting in, I'm sure it's just as hard or even
Yeah.
crazier. But once you're in there, the entire system is all meant to support you and to get to be able to help you flourish.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
It's always good to have that sort of environment where others want you to succeed.
Hmm.
Certainly, like um, in university, it's important, and in your workplace, it's important as well. So, when you spent what was it, 4 or 5 years in India, right? After
5.5 years plus I worked there for another year.
okay, so
Yeah.
roughly 6, right?
Yeah.
What was the adaptation to the lifestyle like? I've heard that it's just more fun. Um, from some of my friends who have family back in India, because your friends are
Hmm.
easily accessible. Everyone's like down to hang out and stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so tell me about it because you are you a Canadian born?
Yeah. 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 I was born and raised
So
here in Markham.
yeah, so that must have been a big leap, right?
It
Because
was. Yeah.
it's just a lot of uncertainty. You might have heard some things about how things are, but
Hmm.
actually making the jump into it. I know you're trying to become a doctor, but also at the same time, you might have had some questions in your mind about
Yeah.
how it would be like to live there, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
did it live up to your expectations? And what are some of the main factors that would draw you back if you had to go back?
I feel like yeah, once you're there and you create like a community, obviously I have had family there, so reconnected with them, cousins my age, and that was fun on the weekends. And then of course you have your classmates and everyone else around you, and then you guys are all in the same boat, right? So obviously throughout the week, for the most part, you guys are all doing the same thing in the grind, and on the weekends you're pretty much all in the same city. Some of them were in the same dorm, And so
Hmm.
yeah, definitely it was fun. Absolutely, you go, but you're able to to go out, do stuff, explore the city, eat mostly, watch movies, whatever, like, laser tags. It's just fun stuff like that, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely, it's definitely fun because there's everyone's all you're right, everyone's always down. It's not
Sure.
hard to make plans. Like sometimes, obviously, the culture there. Sometimes there's people like if you have family members, they'll just come to your house in the
Yeah.
evening. You won't have to like coordinate with them. They'll just might be in the area and they'll just drop by for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and that's normal there for a family, even for friends to just drop by someone's house if
Yeah.
they're in the area. That's always fun because you're always meeting people. You're always you're never isolated, which I think is good for mental health. Obviously, how can you be isolated in a country of almost 2 billion people? So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's fun to make those connections and to always have people around you and to be able to do stuff. But as far as it's different, right? So over here, it's a different type of fun where you can because obviously it's a lot more free space, right? It's not as crowded, and so you can just go do stuff yourself. Even if you don't have people coming with you, you can go, enjoy the parks, go for a bike ride, go for a run, go for a jog. Um, Whereas over there, if you want to kind of do that stuff, you'd prefer to do it with a group because by yourself, it's even though you have so many people around you, it doesn't feel as fun. So it's different. It's a contrast with the type of activities you can do. But yeah, definitely it's a different type of fun, but it's not boring at all. And even though I was born here, it was easy to adapt because you kind of had to, right? There was no like fallback where it wasn't like, oh, I'm not gonna quit and like come back. So it was like, you know what, I'll make the best of the situation
Yeah.
and whatever fun you can have with your friends and family and your cousins and all stuff and colleagues, you do it and then you become content with that. You
Yeah.
don't really miss the other stuff. Like obviously here, I
Uh,
kind of missed the other stuff we used to do every now and then, which obviously wasn't as accessible. But you learn to like the stuff that's around you. And I think that's important. Going forward is that whatever situation you're in, it's easy to nitpick and be like, I wish I had this. Or I don't have this. But you know what? You got to make the best of what you do have.
cool. So I'm going to assume here that you have more family in India than you do in Canada. Is that right?
Uh, I actually have more family in the U.S. actually.
Oh, in
Most
the
here
US.
in the,
Oh,
yeah here in the Canada, it's only my mom's side, most a few of them,
mm.
and then in the U.S. I'm sorry, in the U.S. mostly my dad and my mom's side, and then in India we have only my dad's side, like just the immediate family. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess my question is, for the family that you do have in India,
Hmm.
which you would have never otherwise had the opportunity to spend 6 years with,
Yeah.
um, that must have been quite an experience connecting with, family that you don't normally meet and having that long period with them.
Yeah. No, it was. I think it was one of the best things I could have done because, like you said, if I didn't spend that much time with them, going forward, I wouldn't have had that much of a strong relationship. Whereas now, sometimes if anything happens to them, they call me up without any worries at all, right? Whereas even if
Mhm.
uh, they were able to call me, right, for my expertise now, it wouldn't be the same, right? Because then, yeah, sure, like that's their brothers or someone's son, but they don't really know him, right? So
Yeah,
the fact that I have that personal relationship with them now going forward, it is awesome because before we just meet once a year on vacation every now and then, and that's not enough to form a relationship with someone. And so the fact that I spent so much time with them, absolutely, it's a blessing in disguise.
sure. What about professionally? If you needed to give the viewers some tips on how to thrive through the rest of the COVID crisis up until we're able to get some semblance of. Okay, so to pick up where we left off here before we got interrupted, Muffaqam, can you give the
Mhm.
viewers a bit of insight into a good way to uh, manage healthy living throughout the next while the vaccine is being developed?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, as far as healthy living, most of us are going to be at home. So, it's a good idea to start learning how to cook your own meals and try to rely less on takeout. Because with takeout, obviously, you're more prone to someone possibly coughing or sneezing on your food, or even the utensils that you use. So, there's so many factors that could possibly lead to a chain of transmission to you. So, cooking your own food is obviously the best, not even just right now, but going forward. As far as healthy living, I feel there's so many different aspects to health, right? There's mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. So you got to take care of all of those things. So when more people have home, you have more time, and then old arguments might come up, where people might be bring things up. So trying to work on those connections and not having that much of a negative atmosphere is also important. But as far as the food aspect, I would say definitely the easiest thing would be to just increase the number of servings of fruits and vegetables, because there's studies that we have where if you recommend to people to eat like the standard 5 to 8 extra servings of vegetables per day, they'll somewhat fall within the 2 to 3 or like even 1 serving. They'll increase their consumption of that. If you tell them just to have just 1 serving extra, a little bit makes a big difference. Most people will not adhere to that. So giving them a lofty goal and then allowing them to kind of fall somewhere in the middle is better than giving them something that's realistic and then them not being able to achieve that at all. So yeah, definitely if you feel like snacking throughout the day, fruits and vegetables are your go-to, even if you're diabetic. And then as far as activity, get out there and do something. Obviously, it's summer. It's awesome. We can also ride our bikes. We can run. We can jog. We can even just go for a walk. But do something where you are expending some energy and you are kind of getting out there in the fresh air. Don't just think that the gyms are closed. I can't really do much. There's so much we can do with our bodies. So one thing that I personally do is obviously I really only get free time at night. So after dinner, I go for like an hour walk right around the neighborhood. So it lasts me about an hour. Put a podcast on, or sometimes I just know nothing at all, and it's really calming. It helps you sleep better. So whatever you can do, whatever fits into your schedule, make sure you make time for your physical activity, and then try not to resort to the alcohol and to the fast food, which most people aren't doing nowadays because obviously they're trying to eat more at home, which is good. But even when you're at home, sometimes we have those recipes that we want to make, and then they're delicious, and that kind of gets out of hand. So keep that for like maybe once or twice a week. But for the most part, keep it default. Keep it stuff that you like, that you enjoy. That's not going to make you feel too bloated. And then we know that obviously nowadays with coronavirus that there's preliminary evidence saying that vitamin D and zinc and vitamin C have all been shown to somewhat modulate the immune system and not allow for the cytokine storm that we're seeing that's causing most of the severe effects. So obviously vitamin D you get from sunlight, and then vitamin C you get from your fruits and your vegetables, and then zinc you get from your plant foods, right? Your foods that come from the ground, the minerals. So if you're able to increase consumption of those, absolutely you can even protect yourself. Hopefully, if you do contract coronavirus, hopefully these effects won't be as severe if you're already well nourished as far as your micronutrients are concerned. So that itself can be a good incentive to be able to eat healthy. Is that if I were to contract this virus, I can hopefully fight it off better until we have some actual medication that are approved for it. But yeah, I would say those things for sure. Personally, that's what I do. I just I try to eat as healthy as possible. That's my default, and then if someone else makes something at home, I'll try that. But for the most part, have a default way that you like to eat. Don't really follow fad diets or the whole, water fast or skipping meals. Eat a good breakfast, eat stuff that you enjoy, and obviously try to incorporate more plant-based foods. Try to reduce the meats and the dairies and the saturated fats as much as possible. Those are no matter what the dietary guidelines of other countries are saying. Canada is good. Canada's actually taking those out now. They're listening to the scientists, but other countries obviously are still in debate about saturated fat, and then with meats and with dairy. We know that in moderation, in small amounts, people will still live a healthy life overall, but it shouldn't be like, oh, I need to eat this much meat or this much dairy. Keep it as condiments. Condiments make most of your plate around foods that you grew up with, right? Like that your culture taught you. So if you're from a certain background, if your ancestors kind of ate a certain way, be it in the carbohydrate realm and the vegetable realm, kind of stick to that, because that's kind of what your genetic makeup is used to. Don't try to adopt crazy diets that haven't really worked for generations in the past. So then that mostly just means eating whole home foods and getting out there, doing some activity, not necessarily anything that's strenuous, but just something that gets you moving. Make it consistent. and then obviously focus on your micronutrients, your vitamin D, zinc, and your vitamin C. And hopefully, if anything does happen, with all these things together, you should be well primed to be able to hopefully fight off or even possibly pass through the entire illness asymptomatic, because that is happening too. People are passing through the entire uh, illness without any symptoms at all, and if you're testing them, they have antibodies. So it varies greatly, the amount of presentations that we see. And so the most you can do would be to try to prime yourself to be able to fight it off the best you can.
Excellent. Thank you, Muffaqam.
No
So
worries.
vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and these are all readily available if you pick the right things to eat, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You can even supplement if you want to.
Mhm.
Like I personally do supplement for me and my family as well, just for some extra security. We recently, not always, but
Yeah.
we started taking vitamin D and zinc capsules just to be sure.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point there.
Mhm.
We want to be able to make sure our immune systems are ready to handle anything that kind of comes at us, right? And if we're able to prime ourselves with these supplements, nutrients, then we're just in a better position. Thank you. In terms of what you mentioned before, like less alcohol and stuff, that's good. I know me for a fact, I'm not drinking anything when I'm at home right now because it's sort of a social thing, right? Like when I was in university, it was for parties and like once in a while I'd go out to a bar or something. But when I'm at home, I don't really find myself having much reason to kind of pick up a glass or anything like that. In terms of fruits, yeah, that's important. I am a big advocate of eating many different types of fruits, like especially tropical fruits and stuff like that. I like. These past few days, my family have been having a lot of watermelon. Sometimes even cutting it up into pieces and using like the magic bullet and making a drink and going out into the back porch and just chilling with it. And it's really
Put
tasty.
some ice cubes in there. It's awesome.
Yeah. In terms of the diet, it's interesting you mentioned that you should stick to what your ancestors have kind of had before. I never thought of it that way, that your body would be accustomed, especially through the generations, genetically accustomed to what you put in. And it varies so much between different cultures. So that's interesting. What would you say about like intercultural relationships and sort of adjusting to another diet there?
Yeah, that's interesting because initially I'll bring up the reason why I said that, because we've seen so many studies where before the 1960s, where immigration was in a boom, right, in America and Canada, when people would come over, they had much less burden of disease, right? But then as generations passed and they started adopting more a changed diet, which was obviously the standard American diet of mostly processed foods, they started developing these diseases, right? Diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, strokes, Alzheimer's. Whereas before in their ancestors, it wasn't really present. So yeah, definitely eating as well as the overall lifestyle definitely had something to do with that, which is what they were able to demonstrate in these studies. And so by kind of sticking to what your ancestors have mostly eaten, which is all over the world, it's mostly going to be some kind of nutrient-rich carbohydrate, be it rice, be it some kind of millet or barley or flour. It's going to be something like that, and then a bunch of vegetables, some fruits, some choice meats here and there. That's mostly what people have eaten all around the world, and different variations here and there, right? So sticking to that is mostly going to keep you on track. And then as far as interracial, there won't be any major changes, right? Like there'll be like some cool things. Let's say someone who, a common example would be someone who's African American descent versus someone who's Caucasian descent, and their offspring are mixed. And so if someone were to mostly eat let's say sort of whole wheat products as their carbohydrate source, some rice products as their carbohydrate source, and then whatever vegetables are common in their culture, and then whatever fruits, and then whatever choice meats. For the most part, it's gonna fall into the general template of healthy eating, and obviously you'll have some variation, which is what we want, right? Different cultures have different fun things to enjoy, but overall, it won't be a crazy change. Like the only thing I could think of would be if someone were from the near the North Pole area, like the Nunavut, the Yukon, whereas their main diets are mostly animal fats and animal meats, because they don't have vegetables there. They barely have fruits there, and so for years they've grown up eating only the animal-based products, and they've done fine on it, right? They don't have crazy diseases because their lifestyle overall is going to be much more relaxed, less stress, a lot more activity, and genetically they're able to digest those foods better. So yeah, if you could think of something like that, where like if someone were to have interracial marriage, where someone was from that type of the world where they had like only pure animal meats and then tried like adopting to only that, then that might be something you could talk to your doctor about. But that's kind of the exception, not the rule, right? So yeah, I think so. Definitely just stick with what's been known, and you inherently know what's good for you, right? Like obviously we all enjoy certain things, but we know that I can't eat this way forever. You're gonna have the effects later on, and we know from autopsy studies that even in neonates, if the mother was eating a kind of a saturated fat-rich diet, there's in the aorta, the blood vessel right here, there are fatty streaks in the autopsy of newborns because of what the mother ate. So absolutely, from right when we're born, we're either storing these things in certain ways that will come later on for us, or we're helping our body along. So right now most people are in their 20s, 30s. They're not really seeing that many effects of it. But absolutely, once if you work in a unit where you see people in their 40s and 50s who are unfortunately having heart attacks and having strokes.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? Obviously, and they think, I'm for the most part, I've been doing what I've been doing for the past 20 years. And if you take a deeper dive into what they've been doing, it's not the greatest. It's not horrible either, but it's kind of the default of what's most people do. The high stress environment with, nutrition being kind of a backseat when you have, a more convenience food. And they've felt okay. They haven't had any major issues, but it comes all of a sudden. So, we want to live healthful, full lives. No one really wants to be in a hospital bed. And even if you do survive a major event, your quality of life goes down substantially, and you're relying on people. So no one wants that. So we can make small changes, from now, and it doesn't have to be major. Just small things that you're consistent with that can keep you, healthy for a long time. Because that's what every single study has shown. All the population studies that we see of people living the longest. It's nothing major. We see, they walk a lot, they have a lot of activity, they have low stress environments. For the most part, they don't eat crazy, and that's it. That's really the secret to a long, healthy life. All the other stuff that we talk about, the superfoods and all that stuff, yeah, that's good, but those aren't the secret. It's just consistency.
Well, I just felt like mentioning the public mindset has changed a bit from like the 60s and 70s, because I know my ex, her mom, while she was carrying her, would be drinking and smoking, and that's stuff that we would absolutely cut out now.
That would be criminal activity now.
In terms of like spending more time walking and stuff, I feel like, at least for me, I value my time spent outdoors, even if it's just as simple as crossing the street and walking along the block or something, right? Since I'm spending more time indoors, I value like the quality of life the outdoors has to offer. I'm fortunate I live across from a forest, and every so often in the mornings or when it's a bit cooler, I would walk across and just step across the leaves, hear it crunch, and then listen to the birds and stuff. It's really nice. It's meditative, really. And then you do get some exercise as well.
Yeah.
It's not like a flat surface, so you kind of have to be kind of moving about like in different ways. It's not just your everyday stroll along a flat surface.
And it helps you to reset, right? And not always being in the hustle all the time. Just get out there.
Yeah, definitely. If I feel like I'm a bit overwhelmed with some of the work that I get into at Geotab, it's just a step across the street and I can reset like that, and then get back to it after 25-30 minutes. And it's really enjoyable, and I'm really fortunate that my parents picked this place when they moved out of Scarborough. Yeah, we moved here in year 2000, and I guess it's 20 years now. And it's been quite a nice home to grow up in, for sure. I'm sure you can feel the same about your
Markham's beautiful, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I'm really looking forward to when things open up, and it's actually safe, right? And in terms of like the vaccine, I don't think it's going to be quick and easy, and there's definitely going to be some hurdles over distribution and stuff like that. Even if they're moving forward with picking the suppliers and whatnot.
I feel like with the vaccine, obviously the vaccine isn't the silver bullet. So we're gonna hopefully get the vaccine. You know, and a lot of people are in stage 3 right now, which is basically giving it in human trials and then seeing the efficacy of it. And there's definitely gonna be some side effects, like any type of drug. But as far as people are getting ready to to produce millions and millions and millions of these things, and so countries are signing deals, and Canada signed a deal with Pfizer and Moderna to be able to get like hundreds of millions of vaccines. So that's in the works. But as far as the stuff we've learned over this period, right? As far as keeping a distance, being cognizant of the stuff that we have in our hands and the way we expel our microorganisms. We're all
everyone's going to have a different relationship with paper money and coins and sort of thing, right? Like, you would just grab your burger after throwing some change across the counter, right? But that's maybe taboo sort of behavior, right? So
hopefully we'll prevent other stuff, right? The common flu that we get year to year. Hopefully that can be prevented. A lot of sicknesses that we get as far as the GI tract with the food poisoning and stuff like that can be prevented because of what we do. Because if you look at the main route, is right here of stuff getting in, right? So if we're protecting that with our masks and not touching all the time, that's going to prevent a lot of stuff besides the coronavirus as well. And people postulate that we're probably going to live with this for the foreseeable future, because the way we have the common flu, it mutates all the time. There's the coronavirus also mutating as well. So we, even in cities that have had like 0 cases and then opened back up, they've been pretty much well controlled. It's been really hard for them to have 0 cases continually. You've had some endemic presence of the disease throughout. So it's as long as we temper our expectations that, hey, the vaccine will come, hopefully we'll get it. We'll continue doing the stuff that we already do, with whatever way we can. But as far as like completely going back to the way we were before, that's never going to happen, because that way that we used to do things before is what caused the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. We opened ourselves up for some situation like that. So I want to shift gears here a bit and get into so you and your profession. What do you find is rewarding, and what will keep you driven and working for the foreseeable future?
So I mean, the most rewarding thing obviously is when someone comes to you to talk to you, and they're in a state of distress, right? They have they're saying, I had this, I got this, and this happened to me, and then if you can just kind of like, half the battle is just your taking that information, absorbing it, and then helping them navigate through it, right? Not being like sort of reactive, where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe, oh wow, that must suck. It's kind of being the calm soul in the room and helping them navigate through this. And I understand this. This is most likely what we're thinking of, and then helping them navigate the way of getting back to good health. That itself is half the battle, and seeing them kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Seeing them kind of calm down is very rewarding, and that's one thing that I really enjoy. And as far as doing for the future, I love the research component of it. So I do some research as well, and then definitely finding out all new things. Kind of one of the things I kind of like about this field is that you know things that most people don't know. It's not really narcissistic, I don't think, but it's kind of fun to have those factoids or like know the information that is out there, but not many people know, and be able to convey that to them in a way that they'll understand after you've absorbed it and learned it yourself. And I really like that, the fact that I can learn a bunch of cool things about MRIs or whatever new technology is happening in the medical field, and then tell people about it, and they're like, oh, I had no idea that what that was. And then that's kind of fun to be able to be on the forefront of advancements, because not every industry has that. A lot of people, you get into a job, some people, and you learn the ropes and you're good at it, and then you do that for like 30 years. And then with this field, you're always learning, you're always adjusting, and it keeps you on top of your game, and it keeps you young, keeps you fresh. Cool. You don't feel bored every time you go in, because always something you learn. You might see something, you might hear something that I didn't know that existed. You look into it, you learn more, and it's lifelong learning. And initially, I didn't like that. I kind of wanted to be in high school, I wanted to just do something and make money off of it, and that was it. But as you start getting into a field and you really start enjoying it, be whatever field it be, I think this key to be able to enjoy your work is to kind of be happy with excelling in that work, right? So not just being content with kind of just going and doing what you're supposed to do, is like really excelling in that field and maybe advancing that field even for future generations, right? So I think that's something I really enjoy.
I would say in terms of that, like I like absorbing the material and kind of laying the groundwork for the next person. That's really rewarding. In terms of MRI factoids, you want to drop one on the viewers here?
So the way an MRI works, it's kind of interesting. So we're made up of atoms, right? Millions and trillions, what's after trillions? Something. So all the atoms, they have hydrogen molecule. So in different varying densities based on based on type of density. So a MRI is a giant magnet that it's able to magnetize those hydrogen atoms and flip them multiple times in this thing called K-space. And so by doing that, it's able to do these crazy calculations where based on how those things flipped and how they reacted to that magnetic field, it can paint you a picture of different tissues. You can have if you look at your skin, you have different layers in them in microscopic base. So you can see that just by the way it reacted to a magnet. So imagine in the future when we have another technology that could do something similar for tissues. This is just a giant magnet. So imagine other stuff, coming down the road with light or with lasers, which we already have right now. So there's so much more to be done, and it's quite amazing. So basically, a MRI is a giant magnet that looks at how hydrogen atoms react to magnetization. Yeah.
So there's MRI, there's ultrasound, there's X-ray. You want to be a radiologist, so you're gonna have to be able to read all those images, right?
Yeah. So I actually did 2 fellowships at clerkships at Harvard and then at Yale for radiology, and then
just name drop.
So I did those, and then I'm in the process of writing the exams to be able to apply for residency in radiology. But until then, I'm doing telemedicine.
So, what's drawing you into radiology? Is it the diagnoses from images that is appealing to you, or is it the fact that you can do sort of like telemedicine just in your big house and get the images uploaded to your computer and roll out of bed at 10 o'clock and sort of give the analysis, shoot it over, and then have the patient diagnosed, right?
Yeah, I don't actually. I'm not really planning on doing telemedicine in radiology because I feel like being in the hospital is much different because you have to interact with patients. You do procedures as well. So I want to do MSK radiology, which is musculoskeletal, and hopefully work with athletes and other type of people with those issues. So that's much more rewarding in the hospital. But as far as radiology, this is the advancement in the field. Like even 5 years ago, the amount of stuff that we've learned now. So it's a constant advancement, and it's always be on the forefront of those things. That's what drew me to it, and then. Well, the lifestyle obviously is much more relaxed compared to other
right.
Fields. But it's definitely the advancement because even before I wanted to do medicine, I was thinking about being an engineer of some sorts. I didn't really know what, but I took that course in high school where you had the computers and you had the electronics and the coding, and I really liked that too. And I was kind of good at it. So I think mixing those 2 fields together and being able to kind of investigate. So if someone has, let's say an issue and someone comes in for a mild headache and they've had a headache for 2-3 months. You get an MRI to rule out MS. Let's say all of a sudden because of that MRI you were able to diagnose something else that they might not have had, like a precancerous lesion, and that can possibly they can get treatment for that, and then that could save their life. So it's the fact that you're able to view inside a person and hopefully catch things that would not have come out otherwise is really I think that's a big deal.
No, that's part of my job as well. We're trying to improve the way that we proactively catch issues, right?
Oh, okay. Awesome.
In terms of I'll tell you a bit of background. So my major role is to monitor the status of cellular networks throughout the world globally.
Okay, globally, wow.
If there's an outage in Barbados, one time they sent me to Barbados to go into the local network and do some testing and stuff. And then I walked out of the building, the internet came back on, and they started congratulated me, and so it's really fun.
Nice.
And I have other roles as well. So I do some UI design. So just this past week, I spent some time prototyping a security dashboard, taking components from the design system, bringing them over and making a user interface. It's got like the security banner at the top. It's got cards displaying different graphs. And then at the bottom, there's tabs showing tables, and you can flip through the tabs and have the tables scroll, and you get information about what accounts are on what security clearance. But back to your point about programming and its relation to medicine. That was interesting because I did take a course on MRI, and part of it was image processing and using MATLAB to process like MRI scans. That was very difficult. Like one of the most difficult, areas of studies that I've come across, and it took me actually a few times to get it right in terms of the course as a whole. So if that's what you see as being the future of imaging and stuff like that, where there's people in MATLAB optimizing the new types of image processing and stuff like that. Yeah. There's so much opportunity, like for engineers to work with doctors, and it's a expansive growing field, and I'm glad you're in an area where, as you say, you're able to get really niche knowledge and sort of distribute that to people who need to know. And the fact that you can pick up on a problem with an image when you're trying to diagnose another, that's amazing, right? You pick up something that you would have never even considered. And that might save a life, right?
Yeah,
so
detective work on this, kind of fun.
So that's really cool. I'm going to shift gears down now. I'm going to give you a bit of an opportunity to share with the viewers, and yours included, friends and family, with what you've got going on in your life. So I'll roll out the red carpet and let you give yourself a little bit of time to promo what projects you're working on, and where they can find you on the social media, and what you've got going.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. So for the most part, for me right now, it's just doing telemedicine and some research work, as well as getting ready to apply for radiology residency. And then as far as my hobbies, it's right now it's been kind of fun because I've been getting into photography and drone footage, and so I've been kind of taking those things with me on my adventures. So I'll go on the weekends. I'm going today actually to like this like coastal area right here near like Ontario with like a bike trail and stuff like that. So I'll enjoy the bike trails and do some adventure stuff, and then do some photography there, do some drone footage there, and then in the middle, once I get some time, I like to edit those things like nice cinematic footage. So it's kind of fun to kind of get your creative juices flowing as well, looking at a certain scene and seeing how you'd capture that scene. That's kind of my thing right now. And then obviously in social media wise, it's I'm still on there. Well, not as active anymore. I'm trying to get back into it because it's been busy now with the whole COVID thing. But it's basically a style page as well as a health page. So I'll give tips about easy things you can do to kind of accelerate fat loss or to help body recomposition or preventive medicine stuff. So how to maybe prevent something by just doing something simple, like for example, blueberries, a cup per day, can cause a 7-point reduction in their blood pressure over a period of time. So stuff like that people may not know, that you can just do small things that can help your overall health. So that's kind of part of my page, as well as the style stuff. So I feel that the way you dress is a direct has a direct correlation with how you feel inside and how you view yourself. So I feel like dressing well, taking care of yourself is obviously, for my profession, it's important because they portray a certain image. But obviously, as a form of self-respect, I really enjoy it as well. So I want to share that with people as well, because most people only dress up for big events, right? So your parties or your weddings or your business meetings. But I'm trying to show people that how you can, day-to-day life, how you can dress well, and how, and it's not that hard, and how you can kind of incorporate that as well, just giving people style advice and basic outfit inspiration. So that's kind of fun as well, to be able to get new clothes and try them on and take pictures of that as well. So that's kind of the creative side. And then it's fun. It's fun balancing those two, and it's fun having that in there, because without that, life is